Welcome, friends. It is week 2, lecture 3. We did it. Holy smokes. We're here. We're thriving, sort of, right? We're doing it. We've learned a lot about React. We've learned a lot about state. We've learned a lot about a lot of stuff, honestly, which is really fun. It's really cool. And hopefully you guys are starting to get a feel for exactly what's going on. Today, we're going to take it slow as well. You guys might be like, well, we've been taking it slow a lot. And that's true because this is the stuff that in my, in teaching React or just really the JavaScript platform or sorry, the like language, React is usually the part that gets people struggling. The back end is pretty simple, pretty blatantly straightforward for one stack, two stack, three stack. The front end is a little bit hard when you're dealing with state and validations and manipulation. And then filtering and mapping through things. This is usually where these are the big things, right? We are now in the crux of the harder things of this. And so I do try to take my time, especially with React. We have some wiggle room as well to where, if we go a little bit slower on the front end, we still have some classes that are malleable that we can change and alter and talk about different things. So that's what we're going to do. Just before we get started, a couple housekeeping things. Discussion questions are due Sunday, 11:59 p.m. I tell you that every class, so please make sure that you do them. You have 3 core assignments this week: Prop It Up, Hook Forms, and More Forms. So please make sure you are handling those. Just want to do a little bit of a recap. And in us doing the recap, before we get to this, we're actually going to rebuild it together. I said yesterday in class that we would be rebuilding together. Let me put on my focus real fast. Cool. So we're going to be rebuilding our state together, walking through it. Once we do that, we're going to introduce this term or this idea called ternary operators. Now, from a very basic level, ternary operator, all it is a conditional statement. It's an if statement, right? That is going to allow us to have a condition render, or it would be like conditional rendering, right? To where we can manipulate what our user sees based off of a certain amount of information. Now, you might, I think the platform calls it validations. We're going to see that it's like kind of validations, but not really. You would need another portion to actually call it a front end validation. But we'll see that from an interaction standpoint, you might be able to see just from your own user standpoint, you guys using forms, how you might be like, oh, I can understand how this would be a portion of our validations. So that's why I put the sort of. After that, we're going to talk just some basic stuff about higher order functions and callback functions. We're going to see how we feel on this. If we're understanding, or if I feel like, okay, we have a pretty good grasp, then we will move forward into map and filter. If not, then what we will do is we'll just kind of hunker down, try to trudge through it, and then we can do map and filter on either at the end, or we could do that on Tuesday. Map and filter, once you get these understandings here, are a little bit easier to understand. Cool. So that is today's class. That's what we're doing. Just as a reminder, here is our schedule and what we're doing. So you guys have this stuff. We have this office hour. We are not doing Gray's hour today, or we did not do today, though Gray did come in and save me and help run office hour. Gray's hour will start next week, and all that is Gray has been gracious enough to say, hey, I will kind of dedicate a day of office hour or some time during office hour to go over things that students are struggling with, which is awesome. Not every TA does that, so you guys are in great hands with that. And so if you guys do have some suggestions, or there's things that you're really just kind of not understanding, and Gray, correct me if I'm wrong, but reach out to Gray, and then she can know what does she need to build this around. Again, it's malleable. It's what are you currently struggling with, and if other students are struggling with that, then it gives us a better understanding of, hey, maybe we should do a little bit more in-depth teaching there. So that'll start next week for that. So we did not do that today, but that'll start next week for us. Next week, we are also going to just be talking more about, we're going to be sitting with functions, right? And talking more about lifting state, map, and filter potentially. I kind of want to show let me go back. The reason, so you're going to have to, let me open up this thing, of course. We love that. So you're going to have to deal with forms and more forms. Now, I haven't taught you guys about like on submit and when we're dealing with on submit. And the reason is because really when we're dealing with forms and on submit, you don't have, like, you would be submitting and then have a database call. You'd be connecting to your backend, a whole bunch of stuff here. We can go over that. Maybe we'll go over that on Tuesday where we're just manipulating the state quickly. So maybe we'll do that on Tuesday there. So that way you have a little bit better of an understanding. But today, all we're going to be doing is working on this conditional rendering, i.e. these ternary operators to make sure that, hey, this is operating the way it needs to operate. And if not, it's going to give a visualization to our user that, hey, what you're trying to do is incorrect. And then, like I said, we're going to continue with higher order functions, callback functions, what that means. And then we will go into potentially iterating with a map and understanding that. And the next week, we'll talk about lifting state, maybe diving in more of that. And then we're actually going to jump into APIs, which will be fun. We're going to introduce Axios, APIs, promises. So now we're going to start playing with some fun stuff on the internet. And now, once we learn about APIs, really everything you're doing moving forward, I mean, the world is at your fingertips at that point because there's APIs for everything. And that's just kind of how the web works. So you can start playing with a ton of stuff, but it can also cost you a lot of money. So we'll make sure that when we're talking about it, you guys make sure you don't have to get charged or do anything like that. Cool. Any questions before we jump in and before we get started? Great. Okay. As a recap, I thought we could just go ahead and rebuild. And I said that we would rebuild today. That way we could just get, again, those muscles working of this is a form, this is how I set up a form, this is how I handle state and manipulate state. We showed a couple options yesterday. So my hope is that actually you guys will guide me. I am going to just sit here and then somebody, and obviously my hope is that multiple people talk or put it in chat. So, if you find yourself answering every question, maybe let other people have a chance. But just wanted to give you guys a chance to kind of guide me and tell me and kind of work out these muscles on what are we going to do here. So all I have is a brand new client. I haven't done anything with this. As you can see, my app is still just chilling here, right? Brand new. It's a brand new NPX Create React app. And what I'm wanting to do is I want to create a form for our movies where we're going to have a title. We're going to have a release year and a genre. So what is my first step? What would you guys do here? What are some things I need to do?
Create a components folder.
Yeah, exactly, Randall. I need to create a components folder. So I'm going to come into my source and I'm going to say components. Now I am going to, and I'm going to just do this because I don't expect you guys to have to do that. I'm going to bring in Bootstrap. So again, I just go to Bootstrap and then I'm going to come
I was going to say that next.
Yeah, there you go. Anybody remember where I put Bootstrap if I wanted?
Yeah, go to public
Index
and then index HTML.
Yeah, exactly. Good job, guys. So just put that here, Option Z. That does this for me. Perfect. Okay, so I have added Bootstrap. We're good. We don't even have to look at our index.html anymore. I created my components folder. Now what am I going to do?
Create a form.
Yeah.
Form JSX.
JSX, absolutely. Great. And then what?
Sorry, that Bootstrap that you put into HTML, what did you copy to get that in there?
Just right here. If you go to Bootstrap or getbootstrap.com, you just Google Bootstrap. You just go to this include via CDN, and then I just grabbed this first one. This top one is our CSS. This bottom one is like if you want actual functionality of JavaScript. I don't do anything with that, but you could add the script in as well. But it's just this link right here. This is from Get Bootstrap. I'll put that in the chat for you. Okay. Great. So now I've got my form. What is my little secret code I can do here?
REFCE.
Yeah, RAFCE. Great job. Great. It says form. We're good to go. Okay.
Whoa,
now-
what did you just do there? What did you just do there? I think I missed this in one of the lectures. How you got all that stuff just instantly?
Oh, anybody in the chat want to tell Zachary how we got all this stuff here?
You typed in RAFCE and it automatically gives you like a boilerplate for the forms.js for whatever component you're adding.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's RAFCE, and you can see it's RAFCE. Yep. It does not. It's got to be a JSX, and what that does is it creates a arrow component, right? An arrow function component.
Gotcha,
RAFCE.
gotcha.
Yeah, and it comes with. I
And
think
does it
there's some extensions for React.
Yes,
does it
might-
automatically import the name of the file? So
Mhm.
because it's form? Okay,
Yep.
gotcha.
Yep. So it's this. Yeah, I think it's this one. It's this
Yeah.
ES7 plus Redux. Yep.
correct.
Gotcha. Thank
Cool.
you.
Yeah, of course. Great. So we've done this. Now what's my next step? I've got my form. I've got my return. Again, I'm wanting to be able to see I want to have a form that I can put a movie, and then I want to be able to show the movie that I'm typing in. So what's my next step here?
go to your app.js.
Okay.
So you need to, yeah, so, you can make it clear the div. Yeah.
Clear
go
the
to it.
div. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Then what?
And add form right here.
And remember, if I start typing and I see this top one and I press enter, it automatically imports it for me.
Okay, yeah.
But sometimes it doesn't close it, which is so dumb. So you just put the slash and then it'll auto close for you. Perfect.
Now back
Great.
to your form.
Now back to the form. What am I going to do here?
Now you can create a form, but so first you need to actually write your variables. So yeah, you can actually create a form right here, but so
Yeah, it looks like Jennifer's got a little shortcut that I could do. Now, I'm just going to do this because I want it as a row because I want them side by side. So I'm going to do dot row. And remember, if I do dot row, it is by default a div. So it's going to give a class name of row to whatever element I do. Now, remembering JSX, it's class name, not class. Okay. And then now I'm just going to follow exactly what Jennifer says. I'm going to say form. And again, if we do a dot row, that's just going to default to a div with the class name of row. But if I wanted something different to a div, I can say form dot, and I'm going to say call medium for dot offset -1. And that's all.
That's what I
Bootstrap
kept
stuff.
doing wrong. I didn't do the dot, so every time I did the offset, it like gave me some other stuff. So
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Just I was
you
just
go.
watching you because I was like, last night I was doing it and I'm like, offset always kind of messed me up and I had to redo it also.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Cool. Okay, so now I've done this form part. I've got this set up. What is my, I'm going to just follow right here, and I've got a form group. And then what do I want to do next? I need to create some labels and inputs, right? And I know
Yeah,
you guys
there
know
you
how to
go.
do this. So I'm going to just go ahead and let autopilot do this for me, but it's not name. I want this to be title, right? And this is all from Copilot. It's just trying to guess, so it has no idea. But you can see that automatically because I changed the label to, because I changed the label to title, it's going to take that. Now, what am I missing in this? I've got form control, I've got type, I've got ID, which technically could work, but what else am I missing?
The name.
Yeah, the name. And Alex,
The
what
name.
is the name going to be important for?
The name is going to be important for referencing it and in connecting it over to app.js.
Yeah,
And that'll be when we
absolutely.
start doing const.
Yeah. Specifically when we are dealing with our state and if our state's in one
Use
object,
state.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. Great job. Okay. My wife always kills me whenever I like call people out because she's in law school and it's called cold calling and it's like the worst part of her school. And she she heard me one time. She's like, "You're a monster. You are what we hate." So sorry if you feel like I cold call you. If you guys ever
Man,
don't know
you
the
are a
answer.
monster, Will.
Oh dang, dude! I shouldn't have said that.
I was just kidding.
I know. Okay, so I'm gonna say year instead of author. I'm gonna put release year. Perfect. And then I'm gonna have this. If you guys remember, same sort of thing. Now you see Copilot learn the smart little
Type
AI.
should
It
be
knows.
number.
And so yeah, let's change this to number. Perfect. And then I need one more little thing, and that is oops. There we go there. And then I just need my genre, right? So I'm gonna say this, and I'll put genre. And you guys know this stuff, so that's why I'm gonna rely on you whenever we get to the next part. Cool. So I have a little input type of genre. I keep looking at the chat and then it's killing me. Okay. And then last thing is what will be good is I need a button, right? Does anybody remember the shortcut that I did for a button? I know it's kind of long, but anybody remember what it was?
BTN, you mean?
BTN.
Yeah. Yeah, this is button dot BTN dot, and I want, if I want it to be, yeah, Isaiah, let's do primary. I can do BTN
Sorry.
primary, and then I'm going to do dot MT3. So it gives me a little bit of margin on the top. Now it gives me a blue button. Perfect. I'm going to say create movie. Great. Cool. So we've done that. That's awesome. We have our form. If I were to run this and say npm start, ooh, that's not going to work. Anybody know why this wouldn't work right here? If I ran npm start, why is that not going to work immediately?
Wrong folder.
In the wrong folder. Great job. So I'm going to cd into client. That's my one that has it. npm start. Let's see. There we go. Cool. So we've got this nice little form here. Maybe we can go in and create like a little H1 action that says create a movie. No, I don't know if it's gonna. Yeah, perfect. Great. So it says create a movie. Perfect. Okay, awesome. Now, we can work on the visualization here in a bit, but the main thing I want to do is talk about the state. We can do whichever one you guys want. Which state way would we like to do it individual? Maybe we'll do a poll. Yeah, let's do a poll. So I'm gonna do a choice one is gonna be individual state, and then we're gonna do one state object, and we can just choose whichever one. Okay, save. Okay, so you guys should be able to take this. Well, whatever you guys say, we will do. So there should be a poll. You should be able to see it. You can vote. Leaning pretty heavy as one state object. Okay. Unfortunately. So we have 319. Okay, it's 21-5. I don't think you guys, the other side can make up. So we're going to handle it as one state object. If you guys are wanting to see individual state, we did that entire thing yesterday. So you can make sure you watch yesterday's video. And if we have time or if you have questions, I'm happy to go over that. But it was 23-5. We'll just do one state object. Okay. So because of this, it gives us a little bit of flexibility. And that's where this name/ID becomes really important within my input. Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some state, and I'm just going to create a state of movie. So I'm going to say const movie, comma, set movie. And I'm going to say use state. Now this is a function that I'm invoking. I have to close it, but I'm saying, hey, this is going to be an object, right? I'm going to have my keys that I need, title, year, genre. I close my object and I close my function. Perfect. So yes, great job, Philip. I needed, that's what my next question was, is I need to import state, right? use state. Perfect. Okay. Now we've got this. What do we need to do next? We've got this movie. We've got this set movie. Technically, this will be like 0 because it's not a string. What do I need to do next?
So we need to show it in a second div, right? So we need to do the on-chain, right?
Yep. So we need to capture the change, right? Before we even think about
Capture.
showing it, we need to
Yeah.
we need to make sure we get that information. So we can use an on change. And because I did this as one object, I showed you a little trick yesterday that instead of having an individual on change function like we would have to do if it was separate pieces, what's the other thing we could do? Anybody remember?
We can create a function, handler.
Yeah,
function.
exactly. Let's call it maybe our change handler. Change handler. Now remember, it takes in E. E stands for what?
Event.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. And why is it important that we have this? Why is it important that this function specifically we say, okay, I want to have this event and I want to be able to use it? You remember?
If it doesn't recognize the event, if we don't say there's an event happening, then it won't change it or it won't record it.
Well, it'll
Does that
pass
make
in the
sense?
yeah. So it will pass in, right? React will invoke the event. The event is happening, right? But it's
Yeah,
important
but if we don't let
because
the change hand, okay.
We want to
Go ahead.
call it.
yeah,
No, I was gonna say, if we don't let the change handler know that there will be an event,
yeah,
Hmm.
it won't do anything.
sure. Specifically, what does
I
the
don't know,
E
yeah.
give us? No, Philip, you're right, right? Change handler needs, in order for this to work, it needs to take this in, right? And so we're saying, hey, in order for you to work, we don't want you just to run. We need, you have to have something before you run. So I think that's great coding. The E gives us access to two really important things. What are they? Do you guys remember? I don't want to press tab because it'll give the answer. Do you guys remember?
Target.
What was that? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Because we want to call it because oh, I don't know, E dot target.
You want to get the target value.
Yeah, exactly, right? The thing that I need to know is, because we're doing this as one object, which input is changing, right? Which input is calling this event? Which input generated this event? So I need to know the dot name. And then I need to know, well, okay, I now know which input called or this on change happened to. Then I need to know, what did my user do to it, right? What did it change it to? So now I can say my setter. And then I remember, we're saying we want to set it to an object, right? And because we're just doing one change handler for our entire object, right? Instead of having an individual, I need to say, because I don't know if they've already changed the title, right? They could have already added the title, and then it could be year that is invoking this change handler function, right? So I want to make sure that I'm not just setting it to e.target.name is e.target.value, because I'll be getting rid of all the other data. So I have to bring in and say, hey, give me everything you have, right? Everything, even if it's just this, give it to me. Then what I say is what? And I don't want to press return because it's going to give it. Now I actually target and say the key or the input that called it, I'm going to match it up like this. And I'll walk through this in just a second. What this is doing.
Question.
Yeah, go ahead, Zachary.
So this is kind of for loop,
David.
right?
It's not a for loop. Nope.
It looks
This
like
is, this is
for
using
loop.
this is a function call, right? So what I'm really kind of saying is, let's say hypothetically that I've already entered in title, right? I've already entered in some version of title and this ran perfectly. So now I'm just going to pretend that movie, because, right, our setter has happened, right, is something like this, and it was Shrek. That's already happened, right? If I am then, I have an on change for year because they added in a year. Well, if I just said this, let's say I didn't have this value. Sorry, different keyboard. If I had it just like this is just going to set movie to an object. Let's say I did 2021, and this is, you know, it's year 21, right? Let's pretend that this is what my user inputted. It's going to wipe out all this other state and set movie equal to just this object right here, right? By doing this, it's saying, hey, get me everything. And so then it gives me access to this. And if you remember from objects, if I said something like movie of year equals 2021, remembering that if I call that specific key of my movie object, it's going to go in and it's going to change the value, right? Even if the year was 0, it's going to go find the key that is associated to my object and it's going to change its value. That's exactly what we're doing here, right? As I'm saying, cool, get me everything, and then where, whatever the target name is, whether it's title, year, or genre, go get me that, and then I want you to set its value equal to target.value. So this allows me to get my entire object, or else it would just write over and only save the actual input that, it'd only save the input that called the change handler, right? Invoke the function. That makes sense? And yes, just want to clarify, this is always just 3 dots. It doesn't matter how many things are in there. It's just the 3 dots. So you don't, different than destructuring where you have like a bunch of commas. This is different, right? This is saying, just give me everything. Oops. Just put a 1 in the chat if this is making sense. What would happen if sorry, this is all over the place. If I accidentally misspelled this instead of this? Anybody remember what would happen?
It's gonna recreate.
It would create
Yeah.
a new key, right?
Yeah, exactly. Remembering that in an object, anytime, if I were to say year, like right here, year, whatever, like this, if I accidentally just panicked and did that, it's going to go into my movie object and it's going to go to try to find this key. The way JavaScript works is if it doesn't find this key, it thinks, oh, they must want a new key and this is the value. So it will set this new key, or it'll create a new key with this name, and then this will be the value. So we have to make sure that these are the same, that this matches whatever is in my state, if we're going to do it this way. Cool. Great. Okay. Now, the last thing I need to do is I've created my change handler. You can see that it's darker. What's that meaning? Do I remember?
We need to put an on change onto
Yeah.
our inputs.
Yeah, exactly. And because they're all the same, I can just do it this way. If you hold the Option key, or I think it's Alt, you can do it like this and then say on change equals change handler. And I'll do all of them for you. That's just the Option if you're on a Mac, or Alt. And so cool, now I've got this. This is highlighted. We are good to go. So now if this was up and running, which we have 2 errors, import and export. That's just
Oh,
npm start. Let's see, do I have errors still? Yeah. What did I do? Oh, I always do this. The change handler needs to be closed. I always do that. Because it wasn't closed right there, it thought this entire thing was my change handler because that's the bracket that matched, right? And so it was all messed up. So now it should
Is
be
that
good.
why form, the last letter on form at the bottom, M had like a squiggly line underneath it? If you go down, export
probably.
default form, but it was just the M. It wasn't like the whole word form, it was just the M.
Oh, I don't know.
That's weird.
Yeah, I'm not
I-
sure.
Well, would you mind scrolling over so that I can see the verbiage for on change?
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, of course. So we just say on change and then we just give our function. Now, remembering that we don't have to put like a function call in this, React will handle that for us. And we don't have to pass in the event, React handles that for us as well. So though we call our function here and our function takes in something, it automatically, because it's an event and it's an on change, React handles that for us. So we don't have to say something like, E. Now, if we did this in line, if they were all separated out and we did this in line, then we would have to do that, right? But that's if we had them not as one object. If you have it as an object, do it this way, because it would be almost near impossible to do it. Not near impossible, but it would be a real pain to do it in line. Okay. Let me close this so that there's more room. Yep. Go ahead.
Can you go where we create the object?
Yeah.
In here, when we say like when we have the account, dot target dot name and then the colon, the two dot, while we're doing that.
That's just saying, here's my key, and here's my value I want to set it equal to.
Oh, okay. This is the entire thing. Is the key?
No, so this is my object, right? So like I could do it like this. So I'm saying, cool, get me everything, right? I spread it out. And then specifically, I want to go to this key, which will be title, year, or genre. And then I want to set its value to whatever value is being changed or passed through for my user.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And again, this E is what's here. If I called this event, then I'd say event. If I called this top part event, I'd say event.target, event.value, or .target.value. Or if I called it unicorn, it'd be unicorn.target.name, unicorn.target.value. But stick with E or event because you want to have other developers be able to read your code as well.
So this is considered a spread because it's I guess, is it rest or spread? Because it's the same kind of, but
Yeah, they're kind of, honestly, they're kind of used interchangeably. It'd be a rest, right? You're getting everything. Because I think technically spread is adding in to a new array, but this is just getting everything to be technically a rest. But
okay.
Yeah, great question. Okay. Okay, how are we feeling? We feel better? We feel like we can move on from this? Because this is like one of the hardest things for this. So if we feel like we can move on, then we'll move on. And what I think we'll actually do today, I'd love to see or get your guys' opinions. What we can do is I'd love to handle the on submit on what we're doing. So instead of just kind of doing this, maybe if I had I'd like to do an on submit. And so we can finish forms and then handle with our ternary operator. And then on Tuesday, we can go through map and filter and we can kind of iterate through that. What do you guys think? Let me put this, I just discovered polls, guys, and we're just going to do another one,
Would you mind clicking on the app.js tab so that I can see it really quick?
Yeah, give me 1 second. Let me make this rest of class. Say finish forms. map and filter. Okay. I'm gonna launch this, and then there you go. So you guys can pick which one you want to do, map and filter, or finish forms. Oh, it's even. Map and filter is a pretty easy concept to go over. At the end of the day, it's just a for loop that on Tuesday we could absolutely smash out. Okay, so say everybody wants to finish forms, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Honestly, just it's 18-6, so overwhelmingly, we're gonna finish some forms. Okay. So first off, before we even dive into finishing like an on submit and handling that, there's a couple things we have to do. Or a couple things I want to teach you guys. And the main thing is going to be this ternary operator. Now, all a ternary operator is just a way to conditionally render an element. Meaning it under the hood, all it is really just an if statement saying, hey, if this is true, then I want to go ahead and render this H3 here. And if it's not, then I want to render this, right? So in this example, we have some sort of form. And we can say, cool, when this is submitted, I want to say, thank you for submitting the form. If it hasn't been submitted yet, then I want to say, welcome, please submit the form. So the way it works is, I think it's actually in the, sorry, I want to go here. There's a breakdown, there's some MDN documentation right here. Yeah, this is what I want to go to. Is really from a very basic level, we're going to have some sort of condition, and this is going to give us, it's going to be a Boolean, it's going to be an expression, right? So it's either going to render out true or false, exactly like an if statement is, right? If 3 is greater than 5, or 3, if number is less than 5, then I can print off less than 5. If not, I want to say greater than 5, right? Same sort of thing. I'm going to give a condition. And then the way that we're going to do it is instead of using ifs and else and elifs, and this is only if we've just got one or the other, right? So if you have multiple things, like if you have an if, an elif, an else, if you have like multiple ways, anything more than 2, then you're not going to use a ternary operator because it's just one or the other, right? It's sort of binary. It's either true or it's false. And if it's false, do this. If it's true, do this, right? There is no, if you can't do like an elif or multiple conditions. Or you can do multiple conditions, but you can't do multiple like that's true, or if it's this, or if it's this, you can't do that. But the way it works is we're just going to give some condition that's going to render out true or false. Then we're going to say this question mark, and that tells JavaScript, hey, this is done. My condition is done. After the question mark, we are going to have an expression of and what this expression is, well, what do I want to do if this is true? Right? If it's true, then what do I want to do? You can sort of think about my else as this colon right here. Make it bigger so that way you guys can see. Basically, after that is, well, if that's false, then what do I want to do? Right? So I've got my condition that's either going to render true or false. If it's true, then I'm going to do whatever this first expression is. If it's false, I'm going to do the second expression. But what does that mean? Let's dive in. I'm going to put this above our first label, right? And we're just going to basically do, from a very, very simple perspective, let's say we wanted to make sure that our title had at least 3 characters. Well, I'm going to use a ternary to show my user if they type less than 3 characters, hey, it needs to be 3 characters or more. The way we do that, and the way we do any sort of JavaScript, like when we get to map and filter on Tuesday, we're going to do sort of the same thing. Anytime we do JavaScript within our JSX file, I'm going to have these curly brackets here. Cool. And then what I'm going to say is I'm going to say, because I've got this movie here, right? I'm checking my state and I'm saying movie dot title dot length is less than 3. So I've given my condition. It's going to look and say, hey, is movie dot title dot length, and dot length just literally gives me the number of characters within my title. If that's less than 3, cool, my condition is done. Then I'm going to say, I want to have a p tag p tag that says title must be more than 3 characters. Now, after this is what, if that's true, right? Then I've got to have my colon. Now, I could do just an empty string saying, hey, if there's nothing else that, if there's nothing else, like if it's false, right? It's more than 3 characters, don't do anything. Or you could just put null. You do have to put something though. You can't just leave it empty. The reason I would say maybe put, leaning towards null versus an empty string is though it'll look the same if you actually look at your code. And let's do that so we can actually inspect our index.html. Cool. So now if I come here and I go to my Google Chrome, and I go to my project, right? Automatically it says title must be more than 3 characters. I type Shrek, and the minute that condition is no longer true, it's now not less than 3 characters because it is 3 characters, right? It goes away. And so this is my conditional rendering. Now, if I say Shrek, but I inspect my code, and I even just look at this, we can see that within this, we should have, maybe it just ignores it. We should have a little string right here. Maybe it just ignored it because it's just an empty string and it's smart. So I guess you could do an empty string. That'll be just fine. What I was expecting is that there would just be, like if we were to go to our code, and if I just say like T, T, let's see what happens. Oh, it adds it right here. See how now it adds in this. This is what I expected it to do just with an empty string. I guess if an empty string, it just ignores it. So I guess you could do it either way. I would probably say the better way would be to just say null, but either or works just fine. If it matches my condition, if my condition is true or not true, then cool, we don't want to show anything. If it is true, then I want to show title must be more than 3 characters. Now you can pair conditions. And so I could say something like, because right when I'm starting, let's say I refresh and I just get to a form. Well, I don't already have like issues with that, right? Like, cool, I haven't even done anything yet, and you're already saying like, hey, title must be more than 3 characters. So what you can do in order to get rid of that is we could say something like movie.title and movie.title.length, saying, hey, if there is something and it's still less than 3, that should get rid of it. Yep. So now it gets rid of it, right? Because it's cool saying, hey, there's not anything typed yet, right? There is no length because that's fine. Like just nothing's typed. And then the minute I say this, it goes, right? So now, and then I meet my condition and it goes there. So I can do that. I can also have, we talked about this in office hour. This is or. What this means is that, so this would be confusing because this would mean that it's always going to show, because it's going to say if there's a movie title or the length is less than 3, then I want to show, hey, it needs to be more than 3 characters. So like I said, Shrek, it should never leave, right? So this means, so just when you're dealing with conditions, if either of these is true, this represents or in JavaScript. If either of these are true, this one or this one, then I want to run the true. If I do the and, it means both have to be true. So even if one's true and one's not, it's not going to work, right? Both of them, they're tied together, have to be true. So in this case, there has to be a title and there has to be, it's got to be less than 3. Questions on this? We're going to do the same thing for the other ones. I'm going to use Copilot. It's just going to be pretty quick, probably. There we go. So if there's a genre and it's less than 3, if there's a movie and it's less than 1888, that's pretty funny. I'm curious though, because I'm wondering if less than 88 and we set it equal to 0, if that's automatically going to cause us an error. Nope. But if I say 1887, okay, it must be after. If I say 88, we're chilling. 18, where did it come with 1880? Maybe that's the first movie. Maybe it's smarter than I am. I don't know. If anybody knows, put that in the chat. So that's just a ternary operator. Again, one thing to note is this just shows up if the condition is there or not. If I'm wanting to create a movie, I can still do this. This doesn't stop that functionality, and we'll see that here in a second. It doesn't stop that functionality. It just is a show up. So that's why I said it's sort of a validation. It's a good reminder, but it's not preventing my form from running.
Also, I was wondering, will this will always trigger like as soon as you start typing, right? Like for
At the beginning, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so there's ways that we're going to get into validations. I'm not going to do that in this class. I think that'll be a little bit too advanced right now, where we're going to create a function called a validator just to basically, instead of taking it up here, we can put it up here and say, hey, if it's less, we have to do all of our checks first. And then, so basically when they submit their form, we do all these checks. And then from there, we can do that. We're not going to do that today. We're just going to do some basic stuff today with the sort of submission. But yeah, Cameron, it'll do that no matter what for what we're doing right now, as long as they've already started typing. If they haven't started typing, it's not going to do anything. Cool. Any questions on this? Clear as mud. We put a 1 in the chat if this is making sense. Dramatic sound. I love that. Okay, cool. So ternary operators again. Yeah, go ahead.
Is the order matter when we put our validation in the form? Like for example, we put the validation above the label. Does it matter if we put it in the bottom?
Yeah, it'll just wherever it's going to change where it shows. So here, so now it should show under the release year. If I say like 1887, see how it's under now? So it just changes where if I put it back up, then it goes above it. So it just depends on, so the order does matter in that regard of where do you want it to show up. Like in Python, I think you just had all the errors at the top and you didn't even have to assign them to the input, but you can see it's pretty simple to assign it to the specific input and where you want it to show. Yeah, it's way more complicated in Flask. Way, way, way more complicated. Validations aren't bad here. We'll just have a little function, so it'll be good. Okay, so last thing I want to do is talk about form submission. Now, this is going to be, and I hate that I have to say this, and I told you guys yesterday, this is going to be a little bit of a roundabout way because we don't have a database yet. We haven't learned that. And so we're going to have to learn, ideally, like what if we did have some movies and we wanted to show them. And let's say I wanted to have a list of movies, right? So let's say that I wanted to be able to add a movie. I want to submit a movie. So what I could do is I could do something like this. I could say const all movies, set all movies, not props. And that's going to be equal to use state. I just want to keep some information, right? This is going to be a list or an array, of movies. And this will actually be good. Once we learn this, we can take this into map and filter on Tuesday, and it's going to make a lot more sense because it'd be a little bit more challenging that way. Okay. So what I'm saying is, great, I want to be able to keep track of all the movies that are submitted, and then I'll be able to show them on Tuesday. So what I can do is I have this guy, and when I want to submit a form, there's an event that I can call on. Does anybody know what that event might be called?
On submit?
Yeah, exactly, Alex. It's called an on submit, right? And so the way we do that here is you might have seen it like on the button in different languages. We actually do it in the actual form call itself at the top. So we say on submit, And then I might just call submit handler. I don't have that yet, right? I haven't created that. So I have to go and handle that. So I'm going to create, oops, not within that. I'm going to create another function, and it's going to be called a submit handler. And because it is an event, I'm going to take in E. Now, one thing that's really important, yeah, it's not defined, that's okay. One thing that's really important to note, and I think it's in hooks, is we still need to handle, maybe it's not in hooks, synthetic events. The way that JavaScript works is if we run this event, it's going to refresh itself, right? And if it does that, if I just handle it this way and I don't do prevent, we're going to say prevent default. If I don't do this, it'll refresh and I'll lose all my data. And so what we're saying is, hey, whoa, chill out there. I don't want you to refresh yourself. I want to have access to this data, right? And so the way we do this within a submit handler, and I'm just going to close it before I already break my foot again, is, hey, I want to prevent default. I want to have access to that code. Exactly, Philip. Hold those horses. As my wife, whenever I get sassy, she says, whoa, girl, chill out. But so I don't know why she tells me that. She goes, whoa, girl, know your place. I'm like, yeah, you're right, queen. You're right. Okay, you won. So we do prevent default, and that just allows us to keep access to our code. It doesn't refresh and we don't lose that. And we can see how that works here in a second. So what I'm wanting to do is I want to take this information that they give us, and I want to add it to my new list right here, right? My set, or I want to use this setter to do that. So what I'm going to do is and this is just in state right now, is I'm going to say set all movies. Now this is an array, not an object, but we're doing the same thing. If I've got movies in there already, I want to get all the old movies and I want to spread them and add them into this new array. So Teresa, here's our spread, right? Where we're taking everything we've got, and then I want to add in whatever is currently in my movie object. And so it's going to take in all those movies and then and then it's going to add in also the movie that we have. So let's see this work. So if I come to my React, I'm going to open up my inspect tool. Remember our dev tools that we can do in my components. So right now I've got a component you can see of genre, title, and year, and my state is just, I also have some state here that is just an empty array. So here I'm going to say Shrek 2021 comedy. Now, whenever I say create movie, I'm going to get an error. All movies is not iterable. Yes, it is. I'm going to get an error. Yes, that's basically what we're doing is we're creating a temporary.
Do you need to put something in it for it to, I don't know, maybe because it's empty? Well, no, it should have been filled.
I think you need to
Should be
change your,
fine.
I think you need to change on line 11, those curly boys to some square boys.
Here?
No, on the, where you're
Oh,
defining.
this, duh. Yeah, thank you. I created C incorrectly. See, they're all like this. Oh, silly. Because it's not iterable. Thank you, Paul. Great note, guys. You can iterate through, and we're going to get with this with map, with arrays here. And if you ever get that iterable error, it's because you might be trying to iterate through a object, and then React is not like that. I don't know why. I think I did that, and then even you could see Copilot finished it, so it was kind of an accomplice in the air. So it's not perfect. The AI overlords aren't taking over yet. Okay, let's try this again. So let's say Shrek 2020 2001, not 21. Wolf, dude, I died. 21 comedy, and I say create movie. Nothing happens. Oh, something does happen. you see that now I have a entire array of 2 movies, right? I've got comedy, Shrek 2001, comedy, Shrek 2001. So in my state, I now have access to both of those. Now, because I accidentally clicked it twice, I just refresh and my state goes away. And I can fix it that way. Shrek 2001, 2001, and then comedy. Can I create a movie? Let me give it a second. Cool. Now I see that I add it. Let's add another one. Somebody want to give me their favorite movie? Okay, Tristan.
Forrest
Austin.
Gump.
Forrest
Garden.
Gump. Okay. Forrest. Honestly, Point Break is elite. I'm a stan for Keanu. Forrest Gump. When did that come out? We'll say 2002. And then it is, I don't even know what Forrest Gump is. Drama, maybe?
I'd say
I don't
drama.
know. Drama. Let's do it. It's so sad, but it's so good. Okay. So now if I create a movie, now we see, cool, we have this entire list or this array of movies that eventually we'll be able to do something with. Now you might see that there's a little error right here, right? You're like, well, whenever I submit this, I don't want to be able to do this again because then I'm going to get this error again, right? So what we can do at the last thing of our on submit is we can say set movie and let's go ahead and clear the state back to the original. So now we'll see, I'm going to refresh this. I'm going to say Point Break, 1990, action. You can see my state got updated here, 1991, thank you. If I say create movie, why didn't it update? Oh, okay, I see why here, just one second. We see that my state updated here, and my state still captured Point Break. Now, the thing that I need to do is if I want to do it this way, the last thing I need to do is go into my input and I say value is movie dot title. And then this one is value movie dot, what is this one? Year. And then lastly, we say value. And this is just going to basically make its value once this input kind of restarts. It's just going to make it whatever that state is. When we set it equal to 0, it'll clear it out for us. Movie dot genre. Cool. So now if I come here, we see, all right, release here. We still have our action. If I have another movie, SpongeBob movie, thanks, Randall. Movie, let's say 2008, comedy. We see it's all in my state. I create movie, it's here. I've now cleared out my form, but I still have access to this. So we have officially submitted our form. We're able to right now keep track of all of the movies via this state. Eventually, we'll have this as a database, right? Where we won't just have this sitting in state. We'll actually call a database and write to it. We're not there yet. Jennifer had a great point. We'd probably want to have some validations to make sure like, hey, is this movie already created? Because we don't want to have multiples of this. That'll come in a little bit when we're handling validations, but great thoughts there. But now we're able to get all of our movies, add them in. We're able to have ternary operators as some sort of validation to basically say, hey, as it's typing, at least giving them that error. As you can see, though, one thing I want to point out is I could put, it 2019, what the heck? And then horror. And even though this does not work, right? Even though there's an error here, it doesn't actually prevent me. So that's why I said it's a sort of validation. It lets the user know, but it doesn't prevent them from actually creating a movie. That's where the validation, actual front end validations will come in, and the back end will have both. Okay, I am right on time. It's exactly been 1 hour. Are there any questions on what we just did? Anything you guys need to see? All we added in was the ternary and the submit handler. That's all that's new, but anything you guys need to see? Any questions? Any thoughts?
Could you put null instead of 0 for year so it doesn't show up on your form?
Good, yeah, let's do that. Let's see. I'm curious what it says as the type year. So now if I say Shrek 2021. Now one thing to note though, Tony, that's a great idea, is if we do this and we're needing to, let's say Cody, comedy. If we're needing to, write this to a database, we have to make sure that our database knows that that's not a number, or we'd have to then, we just have to be aware of the type because it's just saving as a string now, which is fine because that's what an input type is. Or the input type is number, but because it was null, it's saving it as a string. And so if we needed it to be a number, if we wanted to do some sort of like, I don't know, comparison numbers wise, we'd have to then cast it as an integer before we handled it. That would just be something to keep in mind. But yeah, this is exactly what you could do. Then now if I say create movie, it goes to 0. Why did it do that? Oh, because I set it equal to 0 here. Shrek 2001 comedy, create movie. Why is that not working?
Does it have to do with the value, movie.year?
No, because it should just take whatever's that year. So it should just take null. Because what I would think it would do is do like this, right? This is null. This is what it interprets as null. If I say Shrek 2001 comedy, I create a movie, and it sets it back to null, and it is null. And why is that there?
Maybe just quotes then.
Yeah, you could do it as quotes.
Try undefined. I'm kind of curious.
That's what I was just wondering. That's what I was just wondering if you could do undefined. Guys, if you don't know, like right now, I don't know why this is operating that way. Just play around with it, So we'll say Shrek. No, it's still going.
Are there any errors in console?
Oh, great idea, Zachary. Let's go check. Yeah. From undefined to a defined value, which should not happen. Decide between using a controlled or uncontrolled input element. Yeah, exactly. Great job, Zachary. Value prop on input should not be null. Consider using an empty string to clear the component or undefined to control for uncontrolled components. But because it's not liking that, we would just need to set this to an empty string. Yeah, Zachary is smart. Zachary is kind. Zach, you is important. Okay. Perfect. So now this would be. There we go. And if we go to here, great job, Zachary. Good idea. Great idea. Great problem solving. Yep. And then there we go. Now it's at equal to. But again, we would need to put it like 2 integer or something if we need to handle that. Great job. Any other questions? How's this feeling? You guys put a 1 in the chat if this is making sense. I think somebody asked for me to come over to this value piece. All this is saying is, hey, for this value, just go ahead and get me whatever value is in my state object of title, state object of key year, and so on and so forth. Well, great. That's all I have for class today. Next week, what we'll do is we will talk through now that we have this, I think it'll actually be easier. We're actually going to iterate through that using map and filter. And then lifting state's a super easy concept, so you guys will be able to crush that. But we'll be able to talk about higher order functions to where we'll be able to show that on a screen where we can then visualize and see all of that information. And so we can kind of make it to where we'll have a form, and then under that we'll have all of our different movies, which would be kind of cool. And keep track of that. And then we'll introduce APIs. Awesome. Have a wonderful night, guys. If you need anything, please feel free to reach out. And again, thank you for the for being flexible with the Discord. I'm sorry that I messed it up. So you guys are raw. You guys are awesome. I hope you have a wonderful
No
weekend.
worries, Will.
safe.
Have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Be safe. Have a good weekend, guys.